Not muted now. So welcome to class, and make sure you guys have your study guide ready from Edsby, whether it's virtual or printed. That is something that you're going to be using in class today, and as well as on the quiz on Friday, which is the most important. So if you don't have it right now, it's kind of okay as long as you're paying attention to my class, but as long as you're paying attention to my lesson and my instruction, but I really, really need you to have it for Friday. Some people learned the hard way on our statistics quiz that they should really have had that study guide right there, and they should have been referring to it instead of just going off of their memory and thinking that they got this. Okay, so just try not to, be overconfident about when you go to take one of those quizzes. Double check your answers. You want to do your best. This is the end of the 9 weeks, the end of your 6th grade student career. So you want to make sure that you try your best, and you just have like 4 more after the IXL skill you do this week. You have 3 more grades in the grade book, and they're worth a lot of points. They're all 300 points. So you want to do well on them, and you want to try your best on them, because it could be the difference between an A or a B or a B or a C. Okay, so you want to make sure you try your best. All right, so today we are continuing our study on, about functions. Okay, 1 second here. I'm gonna just do one thing. Pin my video there. Okay, so we are continuing our study about functions, and we're going to get really deep into functions today. I am going to do a little Edsby check right now so that you guys are clear on what is expected of you this week and today. And then on your own time, I've got some notes here. You can start looking over what you are expected after today's lesson. Okay. The most important part is for you to pay attention really well during today's lesson, because it is stuff that is going to carry into 7th and 8th grade and beyond, into high school and college, because we're talking about linear equations, linear functions. Oh my gosh, you guys are getting so old. You're learning about linear equations, okay? I'm really proud of you. So you want to stay focused. It can be simple, so I'm going to try to show you the simple route in it, and then you can kind of build on that knowledge and take it as far as you want it to go. Okay, and that's what's so great about having the internet. You guys can take the knowledge that I give you, and you can go farther with it on IXL or on Khan Academy. If you feel like, oh man, this is so easy, it's too easy, I'm not challenged, go on there and make sure that you kind of push yourself a little bit, or preview next year's skills. All right, so now that I give you a little bit of a chance to get your stuff together as far as materials you're going to need, I am going to go back to my browser here to show you Edsby. So, and I'll talk about IXL in a second, but this is Edsby right here. Our two, I can't think right now. Okay, our 2 objectives, that's what I meant to say, for today are writing equations to represent functions and graphing functions. They're also called 2-variable equations, so sometimes they don't call them functions. They call it 2-variable equations. It just depends on like where in the country you are and stuff like that. You're at the live lesson right now, so you're good, or you're watching it on YouTube. Hi, people who are watching on YouTube. Okay, and then today you're going to need that study guide. Like I said, it's even more important on Friday. It's right here in PDF format. You just click and it comes. If something doesn't happen when you click a PDF, that means that like you might need to download like Adobe or something like that. So just check with your parents on that if something goes wrong, but it should click, and even on your devices, it should be there. And here it is. And this is a lot of screen grabs from the lessons we've learned this week, as well as some other stuff. Okay, so that's the study guide that you can use on your quiz. You're encouraged to. You really have to use it on. I'm asking you to please use it on your quiz. Okay, if I'm giving you something like that, with distance learning, guys, use it while you can. because when you go back to the classroom, you're not going to be able to have those types of resources. So please make sure that you're using what you can right now to do your best. All right, and then today's assignments, are the same assignments as Monday. Okay, so it's the same skill. I'm not giving you guys a new skill. I'm not giving you guys a new assignment. I'm trying to keep it easy on you. You're already earning, like, let's say 100 points for IXL and 100 points for the quiz this week. So that's enough, okay? Same thing next week. It's gonna go the same way. IXL, I'll assign Monday. Friday, you have a quiz, okay? So the IXL skill, to be clear, we had a little issue with that on Monday. The IXL skill is 6th grade BB, like BB-8, it's BB-6, sorry. I know I should have picked BB-8 just for the Star Wars reference, but I picked BB-6. But you can totally practice BB-8 because BB-8 will help you on the quiz, okay? But BB-6 is the one that is for a grade. And the way it goes is if you want to stop at 90, then you get a 90 on it. Now, some people have some, like, points banked up. Like, you know, they might have, if you already have 100 in the class, 90 might be okay. But then again, it's kind of a little bit of gambling because you don't know how well you're going to do on the next 2 quizzes. And next week is integers. So you don't know how well you're going to do at computing integers, adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing integers. So, I mean, I always say, always do your best. So I would try to get it as high as you can because it might be, again, it might come down to that borderline between like, oh, I got an 89.4. Oh my gosh, if you only had gotten an 89.5, you would add an A, you know, those types of things. So bank as many points as you can into the grade book without driving yourself too crazy. Okay, so, and if you have any questions on the IXL scale, please come to my office hours and I will help you. Okay, and the office hours are here. So scroll down a little bit and you'll find the Zoom code on the left for this week until Friday. Friday's Zoom code is right here on the right. So make sure if you don't understand the IXL or you're stuck or you keep getting knocked back, you know how that happens with IXL, then please come to my office hours and we'll do it together. Okay, and right here you can see that there is an actual search shortcut, and the search shortcut again is not here. It's TZB. Okay, if I remember correctly. Let's see. TZB. There it is. Okay, so if you just search TZB, it will pop you right up to the right skill. It'll be there, and it's a lot easier than it looks. You're just applying the equation. They give you the equation. So you're just doing what they say to do to get the output, okay? All right, and we're gonna talk more about that today. So let me let a few people in and then let's go back here. Now, I do wanna share with you some resources that I put in the PowerPoint that I'm gonna talk about all throughout our lesson today, because I want to encourage you guys to use extra resources. I did not want to bog you guys down with a bunch of graded work, okay? But if you feel like you need extra practice because this is challenging stuff, then make sure you go on to Edsby and you look at these resources, or go on to the PowerPoint and check out the resources, the same resources. Okay, so we have the one that I posted on Monday is about independent and dependent variables on Khan Academy. Totally cool. If you'd rather like a more interactive drag and drop type of activity, kind of like what we did with box plots, you can do this activity on Google Slides. Just make sure that you click make a copy. You got to go file, make a copy. Otherwise it won't be drag and droppable. Okay, you won't be able to edit it, okay? So go to file, make a copy once you click that link, and that'll take you there. And I do have the answer key. So if you do it and you want to see if you're doing it right, I can send you the answer key, okay? And then I have an optional game here for the people that like more of a gaming type of activity. You can click this and it's like a little, I don't know how long it's going to take to load, but let's see if it will show me. Okay, so it's a little function machine activity. What I recommend you do is you choose advanced, okay, because the beginner is really not what we're learning. It's more of like 4th grade version where it's like just saying times 2. plus 5. You know, we need to use the y equals and put it in that equation format. So go to advanced. I promise you I'm not going to make you do crazy stuff. Go to advanced, but then choose activity level 1. So don't do activity 2 or 3 unless you want to challenge yourself. Go to activity level 1 and you'll see a little function machine, and you can basically decide if you want the computer to give you a bunch of input numbers or if you want to choose the input numbers yourself. And then you just, I'm going to choose the input, like choose 1, and then you hit go and it goes, can you hear that? I don't know if you heard that, but it's beep boop pop boop beep boop pop, and then it pops out a number, and then you're like, oh, what's going on in this function? And then you can like plug in another input, and you can sit there and try to guess what the function is. Okay, so this looks like it's a times. Ooh, I don't know what this one is. Oh, this one's a plus 6. I mean, plus -6. Okay, so you can type that in here, or you can, and this one's negative. They're not all negative, I promise. Or this could be -6 as well. You can say it like that. We're going to be learning about that next week. Okay, so, but if you want to do the function part of it, it's kind of fun. You do, again, do not have to do this. Just a little bit of extra practice for you. The Friday quiz, all the information about Friday's quiz is right here. This is just a screen grab from the PowerPoint. So again, I'll show you this again, but it's there. So please go on there. We're going to have Friday's review go like this. 9 to 9:55 will be like a review on the skills. You come if you have a question. Don't come to hang out on Friday morning, okay? Because I want to be able to help as many people as possible without them feeling like, you know, insecure or anything like that. And then from 10 to 11, we'll play a review game, GimKit. So come for GimKit if you would like and join in on the fun. And then from 11 to 2, the quiz will be open. Please remember to come take a quiz, okay? On Socrative, room name, Miss Mel Math. This time it's going to be a little different because when you type in the room name, it will ask you for a student number. Okay, because what I did is I imported all of your information in there so that it will only allow you to take it once. Because even though I was telling people you're only allowed to take it once, there's no retakes, people were still going on there and trying to retake it. And I was having to still give you that first grade that you tried. And I just didn't want there to be any confusion. So you're only allowed to take it once. I mean, it shows you your number. I see your number. That's it. You go on there, you take it once. So please do not click through it without knowing what you're doing, without having your study guide there, without having all the resources there for you, and without truly focusing. Turn the YouTube videos off, get rid of the TikTok for a minute, and just focus on your quiz on Friday, okay? Thank you. I appreciate that. And you'll appreciate it when you see your grade, more importantly. All right, so let's get back here to Edsby and make sure I covered everything. Yep, it's all right there for you guys. And so if you have any questions, do come to my office hours. And again, you can find those right here, okay? And they're also pinned to the side of your Edsby page. If you're on a device, on the bottom, you can scroll to find pinned items. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So I'm gonna go back to my PowerPoint. And here we go. I went over all of this on your own time. You're doing IXL. Again, whatever grade you land on by Friday at 11 is your grade, okay? So you have until Friday at 11 to master it. You don't have to do it all in one sitting. You might want to get it to 80 and then say, well, if all else fails, I can land there, but I'm going to try if I have time to get it farther, do your other work from other classes, and then maybe come back and say, okay, I have some extra time. I finished all my work. Let me see if I can get that to 100. That's a good strategy. So just think of those types of things to help you manage all of your work with all your classes. All right, so let's go ahead and start learning today's focus, which is writing and graphing two variable equations, also called function equations. Okay, a tip to remember is that the input is the independent variable that we talked about on Monday. One second, one thing to say, if you have not watched Monday's lesson, you have to. Okay, so please watch Monday's lesson right after this as soon as you can, if you have not, because otherwise this is going to be a little confusing to you. Okay, so make sure you don't skip around and stuff. It's on YouTube. Click subscribe. Okay, so input is the independent variable, and that is the x. It's what you're putting into the function machine. Output is what after after the robot's done thinking, output is what pops out. That's the dependent variable. It depends on what the function is. It depends on what the independent variable is, okay? And then it will pop out a y. Now, okay, listen to this. The cool thing is in math, when you have an x and you've got a y, what can you do? Graph them. Okay, so once you have that x and that y, you could say, hey, what does this look like? It's almost like, I don't know, I have a metaphor, like there is a video on YouTube about someone playing the Fibonacci sequence. It's almost like that. Like, what does the Fibonacci sequence sound like? You would never think that. Well, this is like, what do these numbers look like when we put them on a coordinate plane, when we make them into some sort of geometry, and we see what are they going to look like as a line? Well, guess what, guys? Every equation has a line. And it's got a certain slope. It's got a certain diagonal that it falls on and that it will look like. Some will be linear and make a line, and then others will make these cool things that you'll learn about, like weird parabolas and stuff. Okay, so there's all these different equations make different types of lines on the coordinate plane, and it's pretty cool to see that like y equals x plus 2 just really does look a certain way. And if I was really going to devote a lot of time to it, I could just memorize what it's going to look like and always know when I'm grading, oh, that's the y equals x plus 2 line. I know it is. You know, you can pretty much memorize what those lines look like. It's pretty cool. Okay, so what I also want you to remember is you can push, I'm saying push, it's not really a mathematical term. You could push any number through a function and get an output, and then x and y make that ordered pair, which makes a point. And then guess what? Once you have one point, you can make another point, and then once you have 2 or 3 points, you get to connect the dots and you've got a line. Okay, so all these little things lead to a line. That's why it's called a linear equation, an equation that makes a line, which brings us right to our vocabulary. So here's some function vocabulary, and I put this in your study guide. The dependent variable and the independent variable we went over last class. We also went over the function table, is that input output table. You guys might have called them in and out boxes when you were younger, input output tables, things like that. It's basically showing the relationship of two numbers. And actually, last time Maddox brought up a good point, and he said this reminds me of those tables we did at the beginning of the year, those ratio tables. And that's exactly what it is, because remember, ratios are relationships that two numbers have. Okay, so ratio, relationship. So this is showing a table that shows the relationship between that input number and that output number. Okay, so he was totally right about that. And function rules are what describe that relationship. It's putting that relationship into an expression like 2x or x plus 2, which would be just adding 2. 2x would be multiplying by 2. You know, these are those rules that maybe when you were younger, you guys just said it in words. You said multiply by 2, divide by 10, you know, things like that. Now we're using symbols to make them into rules. And today we're going to take that one step farther, and it's actually a pretty easy step. Basically, we're going to change a rule into an equation. And don't tell anyone I told you this, but all you're really doing is adding y equals in the front of the rule. That's it. You just add y equals, and then it becomes a function equation instead of a function rule. Okay, so it's really not that much more difficult. Okay, so it's a function or equation that forms a line when graphed. So there's function equations, lots of them, but the ones that are linear are ones that form lines. Okay, you got that word line right in the word linear. Okay, you know I like my Greek and Latin roots. Okay, shout out to Rome and Greece from Miss Kara's lesson. Okay, so function machines. Oh, you know I like making those robot noises, guys. Okay, so Function machine is, here's a couple graphics to help you, okay? You're sticking a number in, you're applying a rule to it. That's like the process on a computer. I told you guys that functions are like computer programming at its rudimentary roots, okay? So you stick a number in, it crunches the number, that's like the processing of the computer, and then it pops something out. This is a lot to do with coding. It has a lot to do with computer programming, okay? So the X is the input, the independent, we got a little typo, independent variable. I've been typing that word a lot, guys. And then we have Y is the output, which is the dependent variable. And then I put a little Disney reference here. Shout out to those Disney fans. I know Disney Plus is getting my family through quarantine. I don't know about you, but put them together, and what do you get? Put X and Y together. What do you get? Bibbidi, bobbidi, boo. You get XY, which is an ordered pair, okay? So then you can go from that and make an equation, make a line on your graph, okay? You can go ahead and graph it. All right, so let's jump right in. Let me show you how this works. So function machine, function robot, think of it either way. All right, so here's another visual to help you. So you put an independent variable, you do some change to it, right? And then out pops a dependent variable, out pops the output. So it goes through some sort of change in the machine, out pops the output. All of these are cool things that you can do to help practice all of the things from this week. Okay, like I said, the game, the IXL skills. Now, these are not the skills that are for a grade. These are for practice, okay? So don't do those two skills and say, well, I did my skills, Miss Melanie, and you gave me a 0 for IXL. The IXL grade this week is 6 BB6. So 6th grade BB6. That's for the SMART score grade, okay? These two are just for your own practice because you want to do well on the quiz. Then we have the Google Slides drag and drop. Let me go ahead and click-a-roo this. Okay, clicky click. Oh, it won't let me do it because I'm sharing. Oh, well. Well, if you click onto it, it's pretty cool. It's pretty simple, but it's you guys filling out a table, then graphing it, okay? And then again, I have the answer key if you need it. So let's kind of jump in here. This part here is really, this is just more vocab. I pretty much have it placed already in the vocab section. So I did not include guided notes today. I just included everything on the study guide. So don't worry about typing this or really writing it down, just kind of pay attention. Equations in two variables. Let me move myself, I'm in the way. Okay, equations in two variables can be used to represent real life situations involving two related values or variables. Okay. The blank variable represents the quantity that can change freely. Okay, think about free, being what? If you're free, what are you? Okay, July 4th, think of July 4th, that's Independence Day. So if you're free as a country, free as a citizen, you're independent, right? So the independent variable can change freely at will, okay? Like the price of a movie ticket might change, or it might stay the same depending upon the movie theater. But like the number of people I bring to the movies is definitely going to change depending upon the day, right? And then the price at the movie theater, might be a pretty static thing that stays the same. So I could just say, oh, it's $10. Okay, I'm bringing 10 people or I'm bringing 100 people. Well, that depends. Okay, oh, depends. Depends means it's the dependent variable. Okay, so if you're going to say it depends, that's the dependent variable in the situation. And we're going to talk a little bit about word problems today so that you can see what that looks like. Okay, and I did add that in your study guide as well. All right, blank and blank can be used to represent equations in two variables. X input and Y output. And that kind of is nice because it goes in order, X, Y, in, out. That's pretty much like how we say things. So it just goes in order. It's nothing silly. Okay, so that's that. And I will save this at the end as a filled in version. So, and then I'll post it, I'll attach it to the journal post. I kind of wait to do that so I can get that filled in version, and you can reference it if you need to, even during the quiz. Can't stop you. Okay, so now let's talk about writing equations. Now, writing function equations. Writing equations is something you've already done. We've already learned that skill. So I've given you word problems and you've had to write an equation that represents a situation. We did that when we learned algebra. This is adding on to it. This is adding on to it because now we're doing it with function equations specifically, okay? So what's gonna happen is always gonna look kind of the same. It's always gonna be y equals, and then the rule, okay? The function rule. So a function equation tells you what operations to apply to x in order to get y. It's saying, do this to x to get y, okay? That's the translation there. So for instance, if the equation is y equals x plus 2, that's math language. In regular language, what is that saying to us? That's saying, if you want y, this is what you have to do to get it. If you want y, add 2 to x, okay? And so then don't let that scare you with all these letters, guys. Think about what it's saying, okay? And so then basically the cool thing is today you're going to be able to choose the x's. So some people will say, well, what's x? What's x? Well, x is can be anything, okay? Because it's independent. So you can choose, like 0, 1, and 2 are really great go-tos for x because it keeps the output small. Because if you're multiplying something by 10, you're not going to want to choose 120 because you're not going to have 1200 on a graph to graph. Okay, so you want to keep things small. So 0, 1, and 2, or 1, 2, and 3 are all good inputs, x's, to choose from. Okay, and we'll get to that in a second. Okay, so the only difference between a function rule and a function equation is that you just put y equals in front of the rule. So for instance, here's another function machine. You could see I was having a lot of fun on Google Images with function machines, right? Okay, so input, output. So beep, boop, pop, in goes 60. Then the rule is applied, multiply by 10, and then beep, boop, pop, out pops 600. So the equation for that would be y equals, to get y, do what to x? Multiply x by 10, x times 10. Or you could have said y equals 10x, because we know we can smush those two together, the letter and the number, to have that coefficient and variable relationship, okay? All right, so let's go even farther here and actually do it. So as you can see, if you look carefully, my rules are already done. So it looks like I've already done the work. Well, we did this on Monday. We came up with the function rules for these exact in and out boxes, these exact function tables on Monday. So what I want to show you is just how simple it is to change a rule into an equation. Or maybe if they're just giving you a function table, you might have to write an equation, and that might seem daunting, right? But it's not. It's just the function rule with a y equals in front of it, making it look really professional, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and just say, oh, well, this was a times 10 relationship. So that was 10x we said, what do we do to x? You multiply it by 10. To write the equation, we just say, to get y, which in math terms, that is y equals, to get y, you do this to x, 10x, or x times 10. Okay, so that's literally it. So over here, this would be y equals 2x, which says to get y, multiply x by 2. Again, you could write that as y equals x times 2. Okay, and then this one down here is x divided by 2. So the equation would be y equals x divided by 2. And I'm using the slash just because having to go get the division sign from the equation section of PowerPoint, it would be messing with my Zoom. So you could use the division sign there if you wish. But remember, the slash, the fraction bar, means division, okay? So we just added y equals to it, guys. That's how you change a rule into an equation. That's the only difference, okay? So sometimes they might ask for the function rule. Sometimes they might ask for the function equation. You need to know the difference between what they're asking. So they might just give you one of these and say, write the equation, and they might not even ask for the rule. So just be on your toes about what's being asked of you. All right, so these again are the things that we did already. On Monday, I want your help telling me what would the equation be for each of these function tables. So raise your hand. We're going to do 1, 2, 3, and 4, and tell me what the equation would be for each of these function tables. Remember, you're taking the rule, adding something to it, bibbity bobbity boo, you get it. I did another magic trick that didn't even have to do with my earlier magic trick. Okay, so I'm going to call on Mr. Newell. Hello, Braden. So what would the first equation be, Braden, for number 1?
Y equals 2x.
Exactly. And that just says to get y, take x and multiply it by 2. Awesome. Very good. Thank you. You want to give a shout out to someone, Braden?
Yeah, let me look at the list.
And remember, even if they're not here live, they're going to watch it on YouTube. So
shout out to Connor Cow.
All right, Connor, if you're listening, you got a shout out. You're going to be YouTube famous, Connor. Okay. And thank you, Braden. I'm going to go ahead and call on Leilani. Hey, Leilani.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Okay. Speak up a little bit because you're a little low. But on number 2, what would the equation be, Leilani?
Y equals 4 plus x.
Exactly. Y equals 4 plus x. Now, follow up, Leilani. Could I have said y equals x plus 4?
Well, it seems it's the same thing.
It is. It's the same thing because of the commutative property of addition. You can move those in any order you want. So yes, indeed. Some people are like really nitpicky about how they write their equations, and so some people will put them in that order all the time, and they'll put their x's at the beginning and they're like tag along numbers at the end. They're constants at the end. Okay, so yeah, you could do it either way and it would be right. Great job, Leilani. You want to give a shout out?
Yes. I want to shout out to Cassidy.
Shout out to Cassidy. Hi, Cassidy. Okay, thanks, Leilani. All right, number 3. Who wants to do it? Let's see. How about Mr. Trey Heathcock? Hello, Trey. You there?
Yeah.
Okay, number 3, Trey. What would the equation be?
Y equals x plus 2.
Awesome. Exactly. Who do you want your shout out to go to?
Antoine.
Antoine, are you listening? You just got a shout out. Thank you, Trey. Thanks so much. Great job. All right. And then the last one, number 4, I'm going to call on Brian. So, hey, Brian.
Hello, I'm sorry.
How are you?
Good.
What would the equation be, Brian, for number 4?
Y equals x divided by 2.
Awesome. Great self-correct there. Yeah, the rule would be x divided by 2, but the equation would be y equals x divided by 2. That's it. That's the only difference. Thank you so much, Brian. Who do you want to shout out to?
I don't really want a shout out, but shout out to this classroom and YouTube, I guess. Okay.
Thank you. Okay, great. Thanks so much, Brian. I'm going to miss you guys totally. All right, so let's go ahead and move on. And basically take this a step further. And in fact, I actually want to adjust. Yeah, we'll go to this first. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and start graphing equations. Okay, so you know what? I'm gonna go over the steps over here. I'm going to go ahead and do this. All right, so to graph an equation, there are some steps, and these are carefully laid out for you. And then we'll go back to that little drag and drop activity. Let me just go ahead and let someone in. All right, an equation whose graph is a straight line is called a what? Anyone know? Chat me if you know what it is. What is an equation called that has a straight line. We just learned it today. An equation that forms a straight line is a, good job, Cooper, a linear equation. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put linear equation in here. All right, so these are steps. So before I read the word problem here, I'm going to go ahead and read the steps to you. So to graph an equation, first you're going to write the equation, okay? And we're going to look at the exact real world situation in just a second. But then the second step would be to make a table, okay? And you can make it this way going horizontal, or you can make it vertical going this way. I usually make it vertical, okay? Like a X, Y, like a T chart, okay? One of those that go like this. That's usually what I do. They did a horizontal in here. It does not matter, okay? But you need your X and your Y and room for your input outputs, okay? And then you're going to make up any inputs you want. Sometimes people write the equation and then they look at, like, they're looking at the paper and like, wait, how do I graph an equation? And you forget for a second, wait, huh? How does that make a, what? How do I make a line out of an equation? And then you got to remind yourself, you choose the X's. So you push numbers through the function and then get the outputs and then take that data, that information, make points out of it, okay? So then you take the X and the Y and you go ahead and plot. I don't know why that says lot. It's supposed to say plot. I'll add a P on it. But plot the points on a coordinate plane or on the grid. Okay, here they give you a blank grid that wasn't numbered, but those are the steps, okay? So you stare at a word problem, unless it's not a word problem. It might be just a table, or they might just give you the equation. But basically, the first step would be write an equation or look at the one they gave you, okay? And then the next step, make a table. Now, what if you had a rule to start with? If you just had a rule and you didn't even have an equation, you can just add y equals to it, okay? And then you have an equation. So write the equation, make a table, X, Y, T chart is what I do. Put in points, any X's you choose, and then pop out Y's, okay, based on pushing it through that function. And then you take the X and the Y, bibbity bobbity boo, put them together, and you get an ordered pair, which makes a point, which then in turn makes a line, okay? And then you can connect the dots if you want. Okay, so, whoopsie, I jumped ahead, guys. Let's go back to our drag and drop activities. All right, some people said I'm frozen. Uh-oh. I didn't want to be Elsa today. Okay, so let me check this out. Looks like my internet's okay. Hopefully I'll unfreeze. Oh, now it says my connection's unstable. Maybe it'll work now, hopefully. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and let's look at this. Complete the table below and graph the results. Okay, so again, you can stare at this and be like, I don't know what X is. How do I know what X is? You get to choose. You get to choose the inputs. So you're choosing the X's. So the best X's that to start with, like the go-tos, are 0, 1, and 2. But you can choose 1, 2, 3. I really wouldn't go farther than that, because if you look at our coordinate plane, it only goes up to 10 both ways. So you don't want something that's going to fly off the coordinate plane. And we might end up with something like that here. All right, so I chose my X's. Now I'm going to push it through the equation. And I'll just show the work here. So this is that middle portion, you're just showing your work pretty much. So you're plugging it in. Plug in, replace X with whatever number you chose. So 0 minus 1. This is actually going to create a negative number. Okay, so this is a -1 rule. So it could potentially end up with a negative number. So this one, if I don't have a negative on my coordinate plane like this, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and self-correct. I'm going to say, there's no negatives on my coordinate plane. So then I'm going to just say, oh, I'll just do 1, 2, 3. Because that must have been, they were imagining us doing something like that. So I'll self-correct and see, oh, we don't have the graph for that. Okay, I'm going to do 1, 2, 3. Okay, so since it was -1. Okay, so 1 minus 1 is 0. Okay, we can handle 0. And then we basically just put the X and the Y together and you get 1, 0. okay? And then over here, we just do 2 minus 1, we get 1. So then we get 2, 1, 2 comma 1, ordered pair. You're just putting the X and the Y column together, okay? And then 3 minus 1, which is 2. So you put the X and the Y together, you get 3, 2. And remember, guys, X before Y. You got to run before you fly, X before Y, okay? All right, so we're gonna go ahead and graph it now. So you just come over here and you graph it. Now, I wanna say something. Sometimes when you make a table, like I said, I made a X, Y, T chart a lot of the times like this, X, Y. You could just like in your head, put those together and make an ordered pair. You don't have to have this X, Y section, but it does come in useful, or you could just put it to the side in parentheses. Okay, so this would be 1. I go X and Y, I move left to right first. That's the first dimension. Second dimension is this. Okay, so 1, 0 just stays right there. You move right 1, you do nothing. You don't go up any. Okay, 2, 1 goes over 2, up 1. And then you'll start to see a pattern here. And if it goes off pattern, you know you did something wrong. 3, 2. Okay, so this should form a line, all of ours today. So if you don't have a line on something like this and you know you did it wrong, I'm gonna go ahead and adjust. The slope is what it's called. You're gonna learn about slope. There's something called the slope intercept formula, and that's what's gonna happen to these functions. It's gonna turn into that. And I'm gonna adjust it so it's going right through these numbers, and you can extend it, because guess what? I can now predict what's gonna fall in that line. Okay, so if somebody says, well, what if the input was 100? You know, you can just subtract 1, you get 99, and I can know exactly where it's going to fall. You can look at this line and predict without doing the function, just looking at the line. And actually, the line also goes on and on forever into the negative zone as well. So down here, there's a little arrow, and it goes on that way as well into the other quadrants of the coordinate plane. All right, so that's what that line looks like. And if we're doing paper and pencil work, I would totally make you write the equation right next to this line, because that's usually what you do. You're naming that line. That line is the X minus 1 line. Like, that's always what the X minus 1 line is going to look like. It's just always going to look like that. Okay, so it's pretty cool. Now let's go to the next one. This is a 2-stepper. Okay, so I'm gonna try my 0, 1, 2 on this one and see if it works. 0, 1, 2 are my inputs. Remember, you can choose potentially anything, but try to choose something that's gonna work with your graph. And then this is just saying take 2, multiply it by X, and then subtract 2. All right, so 2 times 0 is 0. Oh, 0 minus 2. Yeah, see, when it's subtracting, you're gonna wanna make sure that you've got your other quadrants so that you can do your negatives. So nah, I'm gonna go back and use 1, 2, 3. And even that, no, yeah, that'll work. Okay, so this will be 2 times 1, which is 2. 2 minus 2 is 0. So that works. And then we have the same thing here. 2 times 2, though, that's 4. 4 minus 2 is 2. And then down here we have 3 times 2 is 6, minus 2 is 4. Stay with me, guys, because it does get harder than this, because I know this is kind of simple. Okay, so we put these together, put the X and the Y together, you get ordered pairs. And I'm gonna say, it seems simple when you're looking at it like this, but when you have a blank, like you just are given an equation and someone tells you to graph it, you kind of stare at it for a second. You're like, wait, what? How do I do that? Oh, you got to make your own table. Okay. Oh, that's a little harder. I make my own table. Okay. And then what? I'm staring at it. Where do I get X? Oh, you got to make up your own X's. So there is a couple minutes where you might just look at it and say, how do I make this into a line? What? How? What? Okay. So you got to remember you're doing all these steps to push it through the equation to form dots that form a line. All right. So here we go with our little points. 1, 0. Check me out and make sure I'm doing this right, guys, okay? Because you know me. Did I already make a mistake? 2, no, I didn't. I'm okay. 2, 2. And 3, 4. 3, 6, 6 minus 2 is 4, yep. and you'll see that relationship. And once you have 3 dots, that's usually enough to see the line. And then, of course, if you're out doing paper and pencil version, you'd be busting that ruler out right about now, which is what we would normally be doing. But instead, we're doing this. So since we're doing it on the computer, it's kind of tricky to figure out where it lines up. So you got to eyeball it to make sure it kind of exactly goes through them all. And of course, my dot placement isn't the most perfect. And then we can extend it. And then that would be the 2x minus 2 line that always looks that way. And we could predict what the negatives would look like even, okay? And if you want to go further with this, go on to Khan Academy and you'll see with 4 quadrants. All right, let's try one more. This is 3x minus 4. Man, I really want to do that 0, 1, 2, but I guess these equations are not letting me do that. So let's see if we can even do this. Actually, the 0, no, it's not going to work. Okay, so we have here 3 times 1. Oh, we're going to end up with the negative. I'm going to show you. Let's just do it because I want to show you what I would do if this happened to me. Okay, so negative 1. All right, so this would be 1 and negative 1. All right, here we have the 3 stays the same. We're changing out the x. And then we have 6 minus 4 is 2. So we have 2, 2. And then this one would be 3 stays the same. We're changing out the x. This is 9 minus 4, which is 5. Okay, so I'm going to kind of go a little quicker here. I'm going to do the ones that are positive first, 2, 2. And I'll show you kind of why in a second. Well, I mean, obviously, it's because it's not there. All right, 2, 2, 3, 5. And then I could just use this third one because really 2 points are kind of enough to make a line. The third one's kind of just to make sure you're exactly right. So if I did this 1, negative 1, it would be 1, negative 1. It would be down here. And if I look and see, would that work? 1, negative 1. Yep, that would be pretty much on target. I might have to adjust a little bit because my dots aren't perfect. They're a little geared towards the right there. As far as making an exact target. Okay, so now you make it so that all 3 of these dots fall on that line and you've got it. And that shows you how this line does continue into the other quadrants, okay? And then boom, that's your equation. That's graphing an equation. All right, so let's move on. I want to kind of, I want to make sure I get to the other things that we have here, and then also make sure that I'm talking about, which I thought I had right here, but a word problem. I'll pull up the study guide for that. Let's go ahead and move to this problem here, this word problem. McKenna's 5 years older than Ashton. How can you graph that? So you've got a word problem and they're just saying graph it. Okay, well, the first step you're going to do is write an equation. Well, even before that, you kind of need to, in order to write an equation, you need to define your variables, okay? And let me try to click. I'm clicking past a bunch of Zoom stuff, so let me try to find insert text box. So if we're going to define variables, I don't know if you remember doing that. That's just saying what letter equals what, okay? And obviously we use X and Y for inputs and outputs, but if you're using something like a word problem, you can make anything be the input and anything be the output, just as long as, you know, it might have to do with the situation. Like C might be cost, things like that. So McKenna's 5 years older than Ashton. So I'm going to have M be McKenna's age. And I'm just noting this, like let M equal McKenna's age. And then I'm going to have A equal Ashton's age. Okay. And then basically write the equation from there. So I'm going to take I'm going to take Ashton's age because McKenna's older than Ashton. So I'm going to take Ashton's age. I'm going to use a letter that is lowercase actually. And I'm going to go ahead and add 5 to that. And then basically I need like the y equals, well, what's that output? What's that dependent variable? Okay, that would be McKenna's age. So you're gonna say M equals in this case. So because I changed the X and the Y into kind of stand-ins, M and A, okay? So we have M equals A plus 5. And that would be your equation. And then you can go on here and go ahead and fill in 0, 1, 2, you know, and then push it through the equation, add 5 to each of the X's, graph it on your grid. But I'm going to move on to the next one, okay? So here are the steps laid out for you. I went ahead and typed the steps of graphing functions. Let me just move this around a little bit. And remember, guys, we do have an hour lesson, you know, potentially. Sometimes we end a little early, but you got to stick with me for this hour. So stay here. All right, so graphing function equations, first, second, third, fourth step. If you have the equation, then make the table. Here's my little table. These are all examples. They're already been done. Okay, so I went ahead and made a little XY chart. Second, make up any inputs, 0, 1, 2, 1, 2, and 3, whatever it may be. Then go ahead and apply the function rule to the inputs to get the outputs. Okay, and the sound effect beep boop bop is just completely optional. And then third is apply, I already did that. Fourth is to make the ordered pair, which is the X and the Y put together. Here I did not write them down because they were so close to each other that it was just obvious. So I went ahead and graphed 0, 0, 1, 4, 2, 8 and connect the dots. And that's my, you know, Y equals 4X line. That's what it looks like. Over here, I went ahead and grabbed 0, 6, 1, 7, and 2, 8. Reminding yourself that you're always going to run before you fly, okay? And then I've got my line. That's a funky looking line, right? Okay, that's when you're adding, you're just plain old adding, they go up the Y axis, okay? So that's what that one looks like. That's the X plus 6 line. And then over here, we went ahead and got 0, 1, 1, 3, and then excuse me, 2, 5, and then we connected that. This is the 2X plus 1 line, which I think we did earlier, so it should look exactly like that. So this is what you need to know, guys. So you are writing equations, you're graphing equations, and then on this slide here, I went ahead and laid out the steps that I just went over for steps for writing equations from word problems specifically. Stay with me, please, okay? So on this, you've got a word problem. A lake owner charges $80 for a day's guided fishing trip. So just $80 for the whole day, okay? Plus $5 per pound of fish. So that's the ever-changing thing. You got to find like the ever-changing unknown. That's going to be the thing that that you need to go ahead and tag a variable onto. And then the 80 plus is going to be just tagged on. All right, so the 80 is going to always be in here, 80 plus, 80 plus. Okay, and with order of operations, you know you're going to be multiplying before you add, but they went ahead and switched it around to make it crazy for you, you know, to see if you know what you're doing. All right, so these would all be 80 plus. And then 5p, so you're just going to multiply 5 times 0 would be 0. So that means my ordered pair would be 0, 80. Okay, over here, 80, excuse me, 1 times 5 is 5. So this is 80 plus 5, which would be 85. So this is 185. And then we'll just do one more. 2 times 5 is 10, plus 80 is 90. So this would be 290, 2, 90. And then look over here. They did a great job making us a graph for this. And notice the equation here is not going to be y equals. It's going to be 2 get C, do this, 2p. So this would be C equals 80 plus 5p. Okay, and then you'd come over here and graph it. I don't have the points here at the ready, but 0, 80 would be right here. 185 would be like right there. and then 290 would be there. So this line would be like right about there, okay? And it would be one of those little short lines that goes up off the graph, okay? So I went ahead and typed out these steps for you so you can go back and look at them and maybe reference them during IXL or during the quiz. So speaking of the quiz, I'm going to remind you, Friday, we have a review. If question time is 9 to 9:55, you have any questions. 10 to 11 is Gimk It, playing function reviews, okay? And then 11 to 2 is the quiz session. You can go anytime between then. You don't stay the whole time, guys. It's just any time between then. I would not go ahead and show up at 1:55 because that doesn't give you enough time. So try to build in some time there. You can't log on to the quiz and then just hold on to it and not finish it all day, all weekend, okay? Because I have to end the quiz session. So make sure that you're giving yourself time to go on there and complete the quiz while also taking your time, okay? Remember, your graded assignment for this week is the same IXL skill that was assigned on Monday, which is, you could search TZB. It's 6 BB6, and that is your whatever SMART score you land on, that is your grade. So try to make sure you get it as far as you can. Remember, you've got all of these different ways of practicing for your quiz, okay? And come and see me at my office hours if you have any questions. Office hour time is from 2 to 3 today, and here's the info for that. So thanks for sticking around, guys. We got it done under an hour. So have a wonderful day. I miss you guys so much. See ya. Almost there, guys. You're almost there. Bye.